Also, there was a couple other comments you made about Jerry with him. You gave him respect, but the language I'm getting from what you're saying is you feel you were a much better receiver than Jerry Rice. Is that a fair question?
I had the potential to be that. The statistics doesn't say that, but longevity-wise, like I said, that's where it stands. And I'm always going to give him respect in that regard. But there's a lot of people that watched our game, and you kind of look at how he played the game and how I played the game. A lot of people could probably say that, yeah, I would have been better than Jerry. But obviously, like I said, based on my genetic makeup, I feel like I could have eclipsed a lot of things had I been able and afforded the opportunity to play 3 or 4 more years. I would have threatened a lot of his records, and it would have been really, it would have been a no-brainer. It would have been very distinctive as who is the best receiver of all time. Obviously, does championships come into play? Depends on who you talk to, because there's a lot of great athletes that don't have championships. That doesn't mean that they're not champions. I mean, I always say, like, yeah, I don't have a championship, a Super Bowl championship ring, but I played like a champion. And so for me, I don't need the championship to validate what I did on the football field. I think the statistics, your optics, if you watch how I play the game, it speaks for itself. There's a lot of things that Jerry did that I couldn't do early on in my career, but there's a lot of things I caught up very, very, very in a short period of time. When you think about the speed in which we play, I became faster than Jerry. Some of the things that I struggled with in early on in my career was drop balls. When you look at the history of Jerry, he struggled with drop balls too at some point in time. So Jerry set the barometer. He set the bar for everybody. I think a lot of receivers that are playing the game today. And I think some kids will probably say I've set the bar for how they played. And I've run across a number of people that are either athletes or moms or dads of their sons that have basically said, like, yo, you're the blueprint for my son or for my kid. And they were always asking me like advice as to how I became as good as I did. And it wasn't an overnight process. A lot of people don't even remember my college career. They just know of my professional career because I didn't play at a Power 5 school. And obviously now we're in an age and an era of social media. But again, a lot of people, when I do interviews or I've done speaking engagements, some people, they don't even know, unless I've given the introduction, they don't even know where I played in college. They just know about me playing in San Francisco. They remember me going to the Star. They remember the highlights on ESPN, the dances, the touchdowns. They remember me playing in Philadelphia, going there, playing lights out, going to the Super Bowl, playing basically on a broken leg in the Super Bowl. They remember me going to playing in Dallas, playing against the rivalry teams, playing against the NFC East, whether it's the Giants or the Eagles. They remember that. They don't. A lot of people don't. They'd be hard pressed to find a lot of highlights and a lot of clips from my college career.
Let me go back to this on what you're saying with Jerry. So, in your mind, you said you're an NBA guy, right? You said you're not an NFL guy. You're a fan of NBA. I'm assuming you've watched The Last Dance, and I'm assuming you know the stats and all that. You know the arguments. The arguments, Michael versus LeBron, Michael, Kobe, and then boom, well, Michael's got 6 out of 6, never went to Game 7. LeBron, blah, blah, blah.
Michael, Kobe, LeBron, that's my order.
Michael, LeBron, Kobe.
No, Michael, Kobe, LeBron.
Oh, you have Kobe ahead of LeBron. Okay. In your mind, do you kind of tell yourself, I didn't have the longevity that, like, do you look at Jerry as Kareem and yourself as Michael?
Yeah, I could say that.
That's what I'm hearing from what you're saying.
I could say that. Yeah, sure, I could say that. Yeah.
So you think you're MJ as a receiver?
I do. I mean, I did. I played at a level that not many could play at, considering where I came from. At the end, like I said, when you talk about those stats, had I played right away my first 3 years, if I had the ability to play right away, then you factor in I got probably like maybe at least 2,000 yards there in those first 3 years. But I didn't really play a lot my first 3 years.
So you put two there. Let's just say it's 2,100. We give you that puts you at 18,000, and then you kind of get a couple on the back end. Maybe you be at 20. You know, in the GOAT conversation, I don't know if it's just stats, because if you do stats, Malone will be in the conversation. You would have to put all these other guys in the conversation, Kareem in the conversation.
Play the game.
So what do you put yourself against? I don't know. I don't want to put Calvin Johnson. What do you put yourself against Randy Moss? You and Randy.
I feel like I'm better than Randy Moss.
You think you're better than Randy?
Yeah, because of how I played the game. I played every facet of the game. I didn't just play receiver. Randy played when he wanted to, and he said that. And I'm not.
He said that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you look at my coach George Stewart. Like I owe a lot of what I became to my coaches at every stop, pretty much. Larry Kirksey, George Stewart, and when I went to Philadelphia Eagles, it was David Culley, and when I went to Dallas, it was Ray Sherman. Those were, when you talked about father figures, those were my father figures at my stops. And those guys pushed me and elevated my game to where it did, because they saw the potential that I had, and they didn't want me to take it for granted. And so when you think about, and so like I said, we played the Minnesota Vikings, and there were times that we played teams that played the Vikings, and Coach would pull up highlights of Randy. He would not even move. It would be a running play. Obviously, it could be backside or whatever the case. He wouldn't even come out of his stance. For me, that's not a team player. You think about guys that block down the field, doing the extra things, not only when you have the ball, but when you don't have the ball. That's part of being a team player. I played every level of the game, all facets of the game. I blocked. I caught the ball over the middle. That was something I wasn't afraid to do. I mean, it comes with a little fear. You got to be kind of a little nuts. But if you trust, again, that's where practice comes into play. When you trust the guys, when you trust the practice habits, you trust those things that you're doing, and you trust that a quarterback is not going to hang you out to dry. But if you're doing and you're where you're supposed to be on a given route, then you're not going to have those hits. You're not going to have those bone-crushing, jarring hits, because you know that you've prepared and you know what to do and when to do it. And if you're reading, if you're becoming a student of the game, you're running your routes and you're learning, where the holes are, when to run man, when you run zone, when you find the different holes in the offense or in the defense. There's something we call the scramble drill. When the quarterback gets out of the pocket, you have to be in relationship to the quarterback. In order to get that ball and to extend plays, obviously you got to have a quarterback that can actually do it. But for me, I mean, I'm big on acronyms. I was going to say one earlier when you started mentioning.
You said the 3 Ds: desire, discipline,
right? And there was one.
Dedication.
You was going to. You were talking about Andrew Bynum. We're talking about
love of the game.
Yeah. I got an acronym for guys that really they're in the league, but they're not really taking advantage of their height and what they could be doing, because they're in the league because of height, sometimes not because of a lot of skill. And I always tell some of those guys, like, they're BFNR. That's an acronym for big for no reason. Big for no reason. Yeah. I'm like, bro, you can play better than what you are. You're just on the court because of your height. A little bit of skill, but you could be playing way better than that. So my other acronym is I call MYA, which is make yourself available. And when you're in that scramble drill, a lot of my plays big plays came off of that, because you have to be in relationship. Depending on where you're on the field, you have to be in relationship with the quarterback. And so when a quarterback gets out of the pocket, number one, he's trying to find, the play is broken down, and he's trying to find, somebody to throw the ball to. And when they're getting out of the pocket, especially when you have some, defensive guys that can really hurt you, you don't want to take, you don't want to be on the other end of a Sean Marion hit or a Ray Lewis hit or any of those big guys. So they're trying to find, the first available opposing team jersey that they can to get the ball to. So for me, depending on where you are on the field, you want to make yourself available for that quarterback to get the ball and then make some positive yards. And if depending on, like I said, where you're on the field, you can divert with that route, go down the field, you can come across, or you can come back to the quarterback
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.